So, welcome to the Lying with the Wolf discussion. I'm Mrs. Morin, and I am here with
Mrs. Wyatt.
Let's go ahead and start off with the artist. So, the artist is Kiki Smith, and the historical period is contemporary. And this is ink and pencil on paper. Now, the intended purpose, Lying with the Wolf, is an extension of this yearning to connect to the earthly with the spiritual and personal with the collective. So trying to kind of go back to that instinctual roots type thing.
Yes.
Natural roots. Now, the patron and audience. The audience is mostly feminist viewers. Many of Kiki's images are flipping the narrative of men being dominant to women both being equal. All right. And Mrs. White, go ahead and talk about the second part.
So, number one for your questions is what is illustrated by this work by Kiki Smith? So, Mrs. Smith is kind of interested in narratives that speak collectively through shared mythologies. So, they're talking about folk tales and biblical stories and Victorian literature. And then these once really familiar stories are then fragmented and then they're changed and convoluted to where they have different forms and meanings. But it all goes back to that collective thing that we all share that becomes our morals and our attitudes toward things. And a lot of times, those old folk and children's fairy tales that you hear have a lot to do with that. There's a lot more there than just a quick little bedtime story, a lot of times. So, number two is who is Saint Genevieve and why is she the patron saint of Paris? So, Genevieve is herself associated with Saint Francis of Assisi. And she had really, really close relationships with animals, and she had this really peculiar ability to domesticate wolves. And so she's very famous in Paris. Number three, why is the woman stepping out of the wolf's body? So we're going to go down here and we're going to look. So actually, this is Grandma, and she has been eaten by the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. And if you remember the story, after she's eaten, um, the man who is a logger comes in, the woodsman, and saves Little Red Riding Hood and kills the wolf. And when he does, he cuts open the stomach, and Grandma comes out. So this is her idea. This is the rapture, and this is her idea of Grandma literally stepping out of the carcass of the wolf. Okay. So it's just another way, it's a resurrection piece that kind of gives you an idea.
Pardon the bell. Yeah, it's definitely a different take on those stories
And fairy tales and folklore, yes.
Especially the versions we hear nowadays. I mean,
they're cleaned up.
Yeah, the older versions are much more almost horrifying to hear sometimes.
They are, and then that you would sit down and tell those to little children
Definitely
before going to bed, and there was all sorts of just massacres and mutilations and witches, eating small children. Yeah, horrible.
All right. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed.